So the NDAs are finally over, and now we could talk about it. Let's talk about our review of the final chapter of the War for Cybertron Trilogy, Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, the Netflix series. Now, up to this point, both Siege and Earthrise were kind of middle of the road series. I don't want to say that I hated them, but they did have a lot of flaws that made them a difficult series to, I guess, rewatch and enjoy. In the moment, watching those ones, it was like, okay, I see what they're trying to do here, but everything was kind of done 6 out of 10 in a lot of ways. There was a lot of flaws and problems, and something that I always say, what is a really good television series or movie is something that after you watch it, you want to watch it again. You want to enjoy it again because you feel that there's so much more that you want to experience a second time. These didn't have that. Now we go into Kingdom, and Kingdom had a lot of hype and excitement because it was going to be introducing the Beast Wars cast. It was going to have a whole bunch of new character models and molds and toys to play with in that world. It was going to be a lot of ways a what if kind of series at the same time, in a what if, the Cybertronians and the Maximals and everything were all together on prehistoric Earth. But at the same time, the story that's being told here is also kind of a alternate timeline, a different way that things could have went down. And alternate timelines, time travel, alternate continuities, that seems to be really everything that's packed into these 6 episodes. And we're introduced to a cast of characters, and they go on that journey trying to fix the future, or trying to, to the best of their abilities, trying to fix the future. While all the while it feels like we're setting up into whatever will be the next toy line, next series afterwards. There's, there's a lot of stuff here that still unfortunately is present from the last 2, I guess we'll call them parts, chapter 1, chapter 2. And, the voice acting still has its hit and misses. It still isn't the best that it could be, but it is definitely better. And it's a credit, I want to say, and I don't want to say even that it's a bias because of how much I love Beast Wars as a series, but I feel that overall, while the voice actors that they got to play the Beast Wars characters were not the best that they probably could have gotten in the business, they were serviceable. They were serviceable. I dare say, and it's, I would never replace a Scott McNeil or David Kaye for Dinobot or Beast Wars Megatron, but the guys they got were serviceable. Even the Beast Wars Megatron that some people, when the leaked audio footage went out, were very critical of, he started to grow on me a little bit, but there's also stuff in terms of how the character was written that didn't sit well with me, and I'll get into that. I'm just going to I don't want to go through the whole series and make it a complete, spoiler fest synopsis. I really just want to go through a lot of the points that when I watched this a while back, I made a list of notes and everything, and then I rewatched it again 2 days ago. And let's just jump into that, shall we? Things that I liked, I noticed they did, and again, maybe they're deep cuts, maybe I'm reading too much into them, but it's just kind of stuff that I appreciated. Having RC and Tigatron tussle kind of was like a nod to the Beast Wars, Bakon homage, how those two shared a Bakon exclusive year together, whether it be RC, the Black Arachnia repaint, and the Ravage X9 Tigatron repaint, and then years later, when they would both be released back-to-back as masterpieces. I don't know if that was written by accident or if it was done on purpose, but I appreciated that. Having Beast Wars Megatron make his debut with a Jurassic Park homage, the doom, doom with the water. So that was pretty cool. Some of the voice actors, I made notes here, like going, Black Arachnia's voice actor, pretty good. I liked Black Arachnia's voice actor. I liked the way that she created this kind of like relationship with Starscream that was very reminiscent of the episode Possession in season 1, where Black Arachnia and Starscream had their own little, backstabbing thing planned out there. So I like that they did that. The voice actor for Rhinox was good. He kind of really channeled that Richard Newman kind of thing. The guy who played Rat Trap, while he was no Scott McNeil, he had it there. It was the rumblings of what Rat Trap was still present. And like I said, was it amazing? Was it something to write home about? No, but it was serviceable. But the Black Arachne I liked. The Air Razor was pretty good too. Rhinox was good. So, I could appreciate those. Those were pretty good ones. When we get to stuff like I've said, Megatron and Dinobot also. Dinobot was serviceable. A very different kind of take from the Scott McNeil version. I don't know who the actor is, but I want to say that he probably has some kind of black background or Afrocentric descent. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I kind of got from the voice acting. But pretty good. I liked his Dinobot too. We'll get into more about Dinobot in a moment. There's a different kind of origin story too with the theft of the golden disc and stuff, where Black Arachnia is already present as a Predacon with the theft of the golden disc, but that also probably goes way deeper into how this is a completely different alternate continuity. I mean, we're not talking theft of the golden disc, Generation 1 continuity that we knew that the Beast Wars toys and the toy line was based in. This is theft of the golden disc in a completely different Cybertron that totally has gone to hell because of the lack of the Allspark and everything, and we'll get into that too. There's stuff where it's like, Galvatron kind of in a lot of ways filled the role of Cryotech, as he was the one who pretty much made sure that the golden disc would fall into the hands of Beast Wars Megatron in order to start all of this. So interesting kind of alternate take there. But again, no Allspark, no different kind of G1 continuity, no Cryotech, no Black Arachnia being a maximal protoform. There's all the different domino effects that could lead to why this theft of the golden disc origin story is so different. I like that they mentioned that prior to the this series starting, that the Maximals and Predacons were fighting all this time, and that there was like armies of up to 200 people. So what I like about that is, we had all that control art, and we had all the toys from Kingdom and the control art that shows all these characters like Polar Claw and stuff that just never were there, and the fossilizers. So it could be heavily implied that all those toys that we have and all that control art and stuff that we were shown were stuff that pretty much are in continuity, just it was stuff that happened before we got to episode 1 of the Kingdom series here. And this is all that's left of that giant melee, and all those characters and toys that you bought, they were there. They just died. The fossilizers were part of it. They're just not around anymore. So it's implied by that, which I kind of appreciate, and it gives kind of life to all that art that we saw, that big poster when we first learned about Kingdom that had all those characters fighting and everything. So pretty cool stuff. I dig it. I like how there was this dynamic here where Rhinox was working with both Wheeljack and Ratchet, because in a lot of ways Rhinox served the role of Wheeljack and Ratchet in the Beast Wars series, because he was the guy who fixed people, but he was also the guy that made inventions. So I really dig that he was working with those two characters that in a lot of ways people made those parallels to for decades. So I really like that a lot. I also found it kind of bizarre here. I mentioned that, the Maximize transformation protocol is used for both going into beast mode and robot mode. It's a little quibble, but, it's nothing too big. I like that they kept Air Razor and Tigatron's relationship, that they're very close and they embrace and hug and everything, so that's pretty cool. I noticed there's only one moon, so obviously the Vok doesn't play a role in any of this, but again, different timeline, different future. If you really dive deep in who the origin of the Vok is and everything, all of that probably would have not happened if you have the timeline of this, I guess we'll call it the bad timeline Cybertron. The Vok would probably never happen, thus the first moon would never happen. The second moon would never happen. I like that, there's one or two shots where you have Prowl and Cheetor next to each other. Again, this is more of a deep cut, probably by accident, but I just like that because for people that aren't aware, Cheetor, through his production design way back in 95, 96, was intended to be Prowl. Prowl was supposed to be a Cheetor character. That's why Cheetor has a very Prowl kind of head sculpt and everything, ultimately in the end, from the very first toy. So, kind of cool to have those two together because they kind of had that origin connection of how that character was supposed to be. It goes all the way back to the old McDonald's preliminary art and stuff where, Prowl was supposed to be a Black Panther character that was going to be Cheetor, and the domino effect of things that led to that. We learned that if Prime dies, Bumblebee would be in command. So despite the fact that we have both Ironhide and Prowl, on the arc here, Bumblebee is the second in command and chain of command if Prime dies. I guess this is more just because of this new concept of the Alpha Trion protocol and all that kind of stuff. So, pretty cool. Interesting dynamic here. So I always mentioned in the past what I loved about Beast Wars is that almost all the characters had dynamics with each other. You could take a character like Dinobot and you know how he is with Primal, how he is with Cheetor, how he is with Rat Trap, how he is with Brinox, how he is with how he is with Pterosaur, how he is with Megatron, how he is with Black Arachnia. But they managed to take one dynamic that didn't exist, Dinobot and Airazor, and they created a little bit of a relationship that was going on there, and Dinobot and Airazor kind of having a little bit of character development together. So that was really interesting to see. So I really appreciate that too. That was pretty cool to finally see that dynamic of those two characters together because they never really encountered each other. Things that were confusing, like for the longest time, like when I was watching it, I was like, are they like Starscream didn't die? Why does he have all this Ghost of Starscream kind of stuff? And then even, Black Arachnia mentioning a ghost, and then we just find out afterwards it's just because he had Shockwave's cloaking device. But I guess that was a bit of an homage to the Ghost of Starscream stuff with Black Arachnia from Possession, from Beast Wars Season 1. And then it's just a cloaking device thing. I like that, that this whole mention of the Nemesis, and how there's this big buildup of like a future where Prime goes bad, and it's not just an evil clone or whatever. It's just Optimus in one future just losing his way and becoming reformatted by Unicron and becoming evil, and that's the dark Cybertron future. I kind of like that general idea of it, and so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I dig that. What else do I have here? I have here that ultimately in the end, while I liked Beast Wars Megatron, he started to grow on me. He really started to turn into kind of a wimp by the end of it, where I'm so used to, David K. megalomaniac Megatron, who was so clever and cunning and would do whatever it takes for his own needs. And this one is just the most groveling, will literally die for G1 Megatron kind of thing. So very interesting that they went that different take, and I wasn't too much of a fan of it. Death of Dinobot, extremely Code of Hero homage. Anyone who saw that, they were really like channeling that Death of Dinobot stuff. I like the mention of, I wanted to defect many times. Would he have taken me as a Maximal? Again, throwing back to Beast Wars of what would have been. So pretty cool stuff there. Otherwise, very, very much channeling Code of Hero, both in lighting, in the way that the characters were gathered around him, all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, with this Ghost of Dinobot kind of thing, you have another repaint there. You could take that Voyager Dinobot mold, do a clear blue repaint, and maybe somebody will buy it. The tower in Cybertron, when they get back to Cybertron, is very reminiscent of the Tower of Babel or Tower of Babel from, I guess, Hebrew scripture in the Bible and the Torah, which is, the origin of language and how different cultures separated. There's a whole bunch. Again, Transformers has a lot of Christian and Hebrew Torah religious connotations in its writing, and the Tower of the Allspark, and then signifying, the tribes going in different directions, the Autobots and the Decepticons, is very similar to the origin of language and the origin of different cultures because of the Tower of Babel in Hebrew and Christian literature. So very interesting that they made that connection there in a lot of ways. Aside from that, I was kind of confused by the tribute statues. I guess they just needed character models. Like, it's just Optimus Prime going, it's a fitting tribute. And they just built these two statues, one a reflector and one of the many different six-gun / whatever pose, whatever mold you want to call it at this point. It was colored in so many different ways. I guess they just ran out of character models. I think they should have just went with an Optimus and a Megatron statue, but maybe that would have been come off as too arrogant. And essentially how it ends is, you have Unicron reformatting both Nemesis and Galvatron into whatever their new forms will be for whatever the future will be, whatever the next series will be, whatever the next, concept will be. So overall, again, I liked what I saw. Interesting thing also to note, up to this point historically, we've always had our Titan class shown in the series and our Commander class. Rodimus was not shown, and despite the fact that people are probably like, oh, he wants Rodimus to be there because that's one of his favorite characters. Actually, I'm kind of glad he wasn't there, only because I think he would have mucked up more of the story. Like, I don't know how he would have fit in. Well, he's going to come back from the future too and try to fix things. So I think it was better that he was absent, but from a business standpoint, to have one of your big price point toys that is going to be popping up on the shelves as of that recording, as of that debut of the series, you'd think you'd want to have that. And I think that that's the biggest flaw overall when it came to just this War for Cybertron trilogy to begin with, is if you're using this Netflix series as a way to get people into Transformers, get all these people that are home because of the big V, the timing to get them into buying product is kind of off, because now people are going to be watching this, and if they go to stores right now to pick up Kingdom merchandise, there's very little there. There's we're entering wave 3 in a very scant environment, and that's making it very difficult for people that would want to pick up those characters, combined with the fact that we're so removed from those Siege and Earthrise designs that are still present in this series up to this point. If anyone watches this and wants a Siege Optimus Prime, which is his mold in this, forget about it, or the Bumblebee or the RC or any of them. So funny with that. I forgot to mention one thing too. Also, there was a mention of Sideswipe. Everyone gets these visions and they see something, I guess, that they want to see. So you have Starscream seeing his crown and Optimus seeing Alpha Trion, and then you have Sideswipe. He sees Sunstreaker, and they didn't even bother to show Sunstreaker. I guess they just didn't want to have to make the character model, even though there is the toy that is available in Earthrise. But I guess they just didn't want to have to bother. Again, I like what they were trying to do. I really do. I feel that this is definitely a step up from Earthrise and from Siege before. But I think the way that I look at it also is, despite it only being 6 episodes, this is something that at the end of the day, it's an 18 episode trilogy. It's a series in itself. And I feel that it was almost too little too late to save it. That this last trilogy is definitely way better than the first 2, but when you're going to want to go back and experience this again as a whole, it's going to be a slog, because you're going to go through a lot of slow stuff for those first 2 parts. Okay, the Skylinks episode was good and interesting, but as a whole, it's kind of a thing. It's kind of like, I look at Star Wars Episode 1, where most of the movie is a slog, but everyone loves that lightsaber battle at the end. It's kind of the same thing here, where the 2/3 of this trilogy is kind of a bit of a slog, and then kind of the end, it picks up a little bit and drags, and it still has its flaws. I feel that ultimately what we could learn from the War for Cybertron trilogy Netflix series is that voice acting is very important. ADR is very important. Picking the right voice actors that are talented and capable is very important. What's also important is good writing. And the writing with this has not been the best. It really isn't. I don't know who was behind this time around for Kingdom. There's some good moments of writing, but a lot of those good moments of writing, it's more us going who especially who've experienced a lot of Transformers lore, going clearly these people went back, watched a couple episodes of Beast Wars, and went, oh, I'm going to put that in there because the fans will dig that. Where it's great to get a chuckle and a smile out of homages and nods and fan wank and fan service stuff. I would be more appreciative if there was stuff that I enjoyed that was brand new content. Pave a way of something new that is being freshly brought to Kingdom that'll make it its own. Instead of oh, wow, I really appreciated that Death of Dinobot scene only because I loved Code of Hero from all those years ago. 25 years ago with Beast Wars. Like, to me, it's just, don't make me love it because you're trying to channel something else that I already love. Make me love it for what it is uniquely. And that was the big problem that even this Kingdom series had, where the writers really just were making sure to use homages and fan service to make people move forward and enjoy it. And everything else that was original, with the exception of maybe the Dinobot Air Razor kind of thing, but it was so small compared to everything else in this, that at the end of the day, I don't know. Again, FJ DeSanto and his crew, I understand what they were trying to do. I understand what was probably the limitations that they had at their disposal, and it was probably very hard to do that. But I think from a business standpoint, there probably would have been a much better way to tackle this. And it's something that Hasbro, again, in the future, they're going to need to reevaluate how they're going to do this in the future from a business standpoint, because the job is to get people into this brand, they become fans, and then you sell toys. That's the reality of it. I don't care what anyone says. Transformers is a brand that is telling a story, and then we sell you toys. Hasbro is a toy company. Anyone that's going to say otherwise is a little bit delusional. And while the story is not the best, so you're not going to be getting too many people excited about it, you're also timing this very badly in terms of how you're going to sell toys. Anyone that's watching this that wanted a Black Arachnia figure now, or an RC figure, I mean, just pick anybody in this lineup. Yeah, maybe Dinobot's still kicking around at Walmart and some of those Wave 3 guys, but a majority of it really is not the case. So it's something that, the way I see it is, next time around, Hasbro, any of the future writers and producers and everything, you're going to have to line this up a lot better. All previous kind of TV series that we had with Transformers, dating all the way back to the 84 series, Beast Wars, going into Robots in Disguise, Transformers Prime, animated, Unicron Trilogy with Armada, Energon, Cybertron, even Robots in Disguise. There was always a synergy where the toys came out either a little early, but then the TV series followed not long after that, or the TV series came out and the toy line came out a week or two after the fact. The point is that there was always an opportunity where people could absorb the product and then want to become addicted to the plastic crack, as I like to call it. And that's the big takeaway here that I take from this, is while the series itself was okay, wasn't great, it was okay, but there was a lot of little mistakes here that would have been better for business. And as much as you would think as a fan business shouldn't be important, it really is important for when it comes to the longevity of the brand, getting new fans in, and also your own personal enjoyment. Trust me, if you had any misgivings about this series, chances are, if you really dig deep, it's a business kind of thing and why you didn't enjoy it. And the things that you did enjoy were stuff that were pulled from many years ago that you already enjoyed. The money-making stuff that was put into this series were stuff that were money-making stuff from many years ago. You loved Code of Hero all those years ago. You bought the Dinobot figure all those years ago. The money was made back in 1996, 97. Or 98 in the case of season 2 with Code of Hero. So in that case, the money was made, the feelings were gestated, and then they're pulling from that money-making feelings and everything from back then. But when you bring it to the modern era, sure, they're gonna get a smile, a chuckle, and people going, "Oh, I like that moment." But how does that make money for them now? That's the thing. There's a deep inside baseball, deep into the weeds kind of thinking I'm doing here, but that really is the most important thing in the end when it comes to this series that needs to be addressed. And hopefully it'll be addressed with whatever the future will bring. There's clearly a cliffhanger at the end of this leading to whatever's going to be the next with Unicron and the reformatting or whatever, this legacy. And I use air quotes here that everyone's talking about, Transformers Legacy. That might not even be the name, but that's a whole other story. The point is that, I like what I saw here, but it could have been way better. It's way better than Siege and Earthrise in terms of, I guess, the pacing and the amount of characters. Maybe it's slightly also because it has, a whole bunch of new assets, which was enjoyable to see. But at the end of the day, it still had a lot of the same problems that the previous two had. And hopefully in the future, Maybe they'll get a new director, maybe they'll get a new producer, and maybe they'll get some new writers that kind of have a better understanding of the business side of it, and it could be tackled better. Because I really feel at the end of the day, and this is going to sound a little bit insulting, but it was a little bit of amateur hour in a lot of the stuff that has been hired to do this. And I know that a lot of people might take offense to that, but that's the vibe I get, And I'm not saying like I would do any better. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying that there is a lot of people in the industry that have worked on Transformers that were professionals that did amazing jobs with those brands. And I feel that Netflix, because of the limited amount of the budget, they can't really get those big names or even those mid-tier kind of names. They kind of really have to go into the, dare I say, Tumblr, DeviantArt kind of domain, find people and make those the guys that are the creators of these brands. And no surprise, you get a 6 out of 10 series or a 7 out of 10 series. It's a pass, but it's not something it's not the report card you run home to show mom and be proud of. So that's my take. Again, I feel is way better than Siege and Earthrise, but we're grading this as a whole. And at the end of the day, I still think that this could have been way better. And hopefully the next time around, things will be done a little better. But let me know what you think. Maybe I'm wrong here, but let me know what you think. And hopefully the next series will be a step up and a different transformation.